and welcome back to episode 2 of chapter 2 of Spirit Rebels, our wonderful Manifesting and Magic podcast. I am Helen and I'm here with the wonderful
Shirley. Oh God, no, this is just going to get worse.
We're just going to do it every episode, guys. We're going to sing to you. We'll be singing our hellos and we'll be singing our goodbyes.
Did we do it last time, actually? The whole bye thing that we did. Did we do it? I don't even realise we're doing it
You
now.
blew a kiss as well.
I did. I don't know why I did that. Not like anyone can see us. Thank heaven. But never mind. So yeah, how's your week been, my darling?
Well, it's been a good week, as always. Life is good at the moment, but I have to tell you, I am having tyre problems, people.
Oh, no.
I need to tell you about this, but actually it's a good thing. So in the last month, I've had to have 4 new tyres. I had to have 3. Yes, financially, it was a big ouch. I had to have 3 about 3 weeks ago. And it's because I live in the middle of nowhere. I live in one-track country lanes. There's a lot of potholes and a lot of loose, like flinty stones. However, this week, coming home from work, it was actually, I was leaving early because I had to get home for Lils. And so I was meant to be leaving at 4 and I left at 4:10, which was good for me to only be 10 minutes when I said I had to leave. And I never leave work at that time. I always leave late. So all my team were going, get out, Helen, you've got to go. So I left. Anyway, halfway driving home, my car light comes on saying that I've got tyre pressure problem. And I'm like, what? I've just had 3 new tyres. I can't possibly have tyre pressure problems. So I eventually pulled over in Axminster. And I thought, oh, it looks fine. As I get round to the tyre, it's telling me it's a problem. I can hear air coming out of it.
Oh, no.
At this point, it's 5:15. So most of the tyre places are shut. There's one still open. I ring them. They say they would be able to put my spare on because thankfully I carry a spare. I drive down there. They say, well, it might be fixable. So they have a look. Not that they could fix it that night, but they had a look. And actually, it had a bloody great stone in it. And that's what was causing the air to come out. And so basically, I just begged them and said, is there any chance you can put one on if you've got it in stock and blah, 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 blah. And the lads said, we're happy to, but you need to go and check with the boss. Went and checked with the boss and he went, oh, go on then. He said, go on then. If we've got one, we'll do it. And for me, it was about, had I left at my usual time, 5:30, 6 o'clock, there is absolutely no way I would have got all the way home with the air that was coming out. And B, nothing would have been open at all. Do you know what I mean? It would have been a complete, I would have been having to call out a breakout van. And I needed to get home early that night. So I would never have got home at a sensible time. So it just made me chuckle the next day, although it was all quite stressful at the time. But thankfully, shout out to Castle Hill Tyres in Axminster. They literally saved the day for me. And sorted that tyre when all the lads were packed up ready to go because it was right at the end of the day and they stayed on a bit to do it. So I'm so grateful. But doesn't it just show that things happened for a reason? Like had I have left at my normal time, I would have been in a completely different predicament. So although it was stressful for a moment, it all turned out in the end. And so yeah, just really grateful for all of that situation, really, that it all just sort of aligned.
See, sometimes things happen. Shitty stuff always has to happen because it's part of life. And, you know, we've got, you know, all sorts of stuff that we deal with. But when things happen in the best way, it's like the universe just saying, okay, you've got to go through this, but I'm going to get you through this in the best possible way. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to look after you. I'm going to make it safe. I'm going to make it easy. You got to go through it, but we're going to get through it together. And I love those moments because it makes you really feel, you end up with that gratitude flowing and that whole sense of relief rather than despair over something that could be really, now you're starting the winter with 4 brand new tyres.
Yeah, 300 quid later, which for some will say that's quite cheap. There's some people's are really expensive. But yeah, I'm really hoping, I mean, the lanes are shockingly bad. The council does nothing. I think they just neglect places like where I live. But let's hope these touch wood last.
Yes,
I don't have any problem.
They will.
How about you, Shells? How's your week been?
Well, my week has been good. However, I'm riddled with guilt today. I'm feeling really, really guilty today. Not serious guilt, but so the kids are away at their dad's this weekend, and Paul is wanting to sit down and watch the football that is on now. And then we just had notification. So I'm here recording with you that the HelloFresh delivery, we are not sponsoring HelloFresh. We are not subsidized by HelloFresh in any way, shape, or form. I know lots of podcasts are, but we are not. But the HelloFresh delivery is due between 2 and 3, and the Tesco food shopping deliveries between 2 and 3, and the poor guy's trying to sit and watch the bloody football. And I've just abandoned him to everything completely. He doesn't mind, bless him.
Oh, he's such a
literally my
good one.
little
So there's you
saviour.
recording,
He is.
and then he's thinking, one thing I wanted, one thing this weekend to watch this football, and now I'm going to have to answer the door to HelloFresh and answer the door to the blooming food delivery.
Yeah.
Oh,
I have told him that as long as we can just get the frozen stuff in the freezer, I'll sort everything else out when I get back down. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, well, we hope your football team at least win the football today.
Yeah. Give him something, eh? Give him something.
Oh dear. So this week's episode, then, we are talking about anxiety.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think this episode's a big one. I think a lot of people will actually relate to what we are about to talk about, because anxiety is something that I think to a degree a lot of people carry. They may not even know that they're dealing with anxiety. Some people carry it and mask it very, very well. Some people are swamped by it to the point that they cannot, live a normal life. And I think it's so, because it's a hidden thing, isn't it? It affects everyone in such different ways. And again, we'll come back to those hidden beliefs that we, because of anxiety, we end up putting ourselves under so much more pressure to be able to do things and be, Wonder Women. And oh, there goes the doorbell now. That's one of the deliveries. Oops, sorry, Paul. So yeah, we end up putting more and more pressure on ourselves that ends up making anxiety even worse. So both you and I have experience with anxiety, and I think it might be a good place to start if we were to tell our anxiety stories. Is that the right way to put it? I don't know.
Yeah, do you want to go first?
No, you go first.
Okay. So I suffer with anxiety and OCD, diagnosed. And over the years, I've had lots of therapy. So my OCD manifests in many different ways, predominantly around numbers and checks, and intrusive thoughts. So mine's around intrusive thoughts and checking things certain times. And so I've had a lot of therapy with that over years, cognitive behavior therapy and some speaking therapies. I have to say cognitive behavior worked really, really, really well in comparison to speaking therapies. But for me, I did start medication 10 years ago, and 10 years on, I'm still on antidepressants. So I'm not on antidepressants for being depressed. I'm on antidepressants to manage my OCD and anxiety. And for me, it just allows my brain to, I still get intrusive thoughts, but it allows me to cope with it better. So it's a relatively small dosage, but it just keeps me calm. And 10 years on, I am like, if every year the doctor rings me, we just need to talk about your prescription, I'm like, don't take me off it. Because I can tell if I don't take it for maybe 3 or 4 days, I can tell I start to go in a bit of an emotional slump. I have to say, though, as a mum, I have exceptional guilt around anxiety and OCD because I have raised an anxious child. Not intentionally, but she has obviously seen me checking. It was a big contributor to one of the reasons my marriage failed, because it's exceptionally hard to live with. And I feel guilt every day where Lily's concerned, because she is, have you turned the switches off, mum? Is the front door locked, mum? And then so germs was quite a big issue for me. So like at work, nobody can sit in my desk or hot desk my desk because it just needs to be left for me. I'm very like, just don't touch my stuff. So when COVID happened.
Well, I'm like that, but it's just possessiveness.
Love it. I love it.
Fuck off, it's mine. Get off, leave it alone.
Love it. But
Nothing to do
when
with anxiety or OCD. I'm just that possessive.
but when COVID hit, that was twofold for Lily, and she got really bad with germs. And we're quite a few years on now, and she's still bad, but not as bad. But I have to carry that guilt every day. That was a learned behavior. She learned from my anxiety. And that's a difficult place to be when you feel that guilt. So yeah, so that's kind of the long and the short of my journey. But it will be a journey that's with me forever, and I know it'll be something I live with forever. It's something I have to keep working on, and I'm very at terms and at ease with that. I have good days and bad days. So how about you, Shells?
Well, just before we move on, you know what I'm like. I can't just hear something and leave it alone. I just want to talk about that guilt thing in terms of, managing anxiety yourself is one thing with the OCD and everything. The idea of feeling guilty about, Lily learning that mindset, that behavior, etc., from you. I will also just point out that it's not just about what she's seen, she's inherited it. DNA wise, she will have inherited it because this sort of stuff is not just about what goes on in our mind. It's about that deep hidden stuff that we carry in our cells and in our DNA. So when she was born, she was already carrying the shit that you deal with. All our kids do, But on that note, what we have to think about is the fact that we have also inherited the do we say the what's the word, I'm struggling for the word now, the we come pre-programmed from our parents, from our grandparents and our ancestors. So it's not all on you, my darling. Please don't, I know as a mom, you're like, oh mum, sorry, we're posher.
No, I love mom. I love the way you say it.
As a mom, we think, oh God, I've hurt my child in some way. I've given her this thing that I, don't like about myself. But actually it's come down. It's not all on your shoulders at all. The difference being is the fact that you are aware of it. So you are the perfect person to support her with that. You are the perfect person to help her find ways of dealing with it and managing it. And I don't want to sound right. So before you, people were maybe dealing with this stuff, but it wasn't accepted. We didn't look at it. We didn't own it. We didn't own up to it. We didn't acknowledge it. So it was never dealt with. So you didn't have that, or didn't necessarily have someone who got it, someone who understood. Because it's very easy when you are an outside person looking in on someone who is they carrying OCD traits or whatever, to be able to go, well, just stop it. Just don't do that anymore. Just don't think that way anymore. Just as if you could just switch it off. So in fact, you having these qualities is actually there to support her and help heal her and you can break the cycle whilst being her mum. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. And actually, going back to our previous episode, sometimes it's about reframing your thought process, isn't it? And actually, you've just turned what I would class as quite a negative thing into a very positive thing, So it's
my
about
job,
that.
Hells. It's my job.
You're bloody good. You're bloody good. So it's about changing your mindset with it, isn't it? So that's really good and very helpful. And yeah, Phil. And just before we move on to you, look, here are my tablets. I don't know if you can hear the shaking, because at the moment I did forget to take them for nearly a week, and then I was like, I'm feeling pretty crap. Why is it? Oh yeah, my tablets. So now I carry them with me everywhere.
Keep them in your bra with some crystals and things.
I have taken today's one, so we're in a safe place today.
Yeah. So people often think, because of my beliefs, because of the fact that I'm a Reiki master and all that sort of stuff. People are very often that sounded funny, didn't it? People very often come to the conclusion that I am like anti-medication, all that sort of stuff, and I'm absolutely not. I believe that everything has a purpose. I think when it comes to progress, particularly medical progress, I think they're gifts. I think medicine is an absolute gift. I think that sometimes the gifts that we are given are misused in some ways, not by the people taking the medication, but by the way it's given out. Because one of the big issues I have with giving out antidepressants is not about the medication itself. It's about the fact that there's no other support comes with it, or very little support
Yeah.
comes with it. And if it was a case of, right, okay, I can, the doctors, and some doctors are good. There's some doctors do, say this, but a lot of my experience has been, okay, you're struggling, stick you on pills, end of. And there's been no follow up. There's no, okay, so let's take a look at your lifestyle. What can we change around there? What is it that's actually causing this problem? Where did this stem from? Shall we have a look at, other
It's because they
things?
don't have time and there's
No,
no
they
money for
don't.
them to do
No,
it. And there's
absolutely
such
not.
big waiting lists for therapies and
Yeah.
things that they're
It's
in a rock and a hard
crackers.
place,
Yeah.
aren't they?
And I mean, the counselors are, they get this limited time, and they must have waiting lists that, what is it? It's
Mm.
about 18 months or something for talking matters up
Ridiculous.
here.
Yeah,
Which,
ridiculous.
when you're sitting, well, a lot can happen in 18 months, can't it, if you're not feeling
Mm.
very good. So I think the whole system's screwy, is what I think. I don't think there's a problem with medication. I think the whole system's screwy. I've taken medication for like anti-anxiety stuff over the years. I've been on it, I've been off it. I'm not now, and I haven't been for 3 years, something like that. And I do okay now. But I've, God, my anxiety started. I guess you would call me as a high functioner, because nobody on the outside, I'm going to get emotional now, nobody on the outside would ever think that someone, and this is something else I have a problem with, because you see people who are performers and who are leading other people and who are
Mm.
inspirational, and from an outside point of view, people would look at these folks and go, wow, she's really got her shit together, she's amazing, look at her, she never has a problem. Oh, but they don't see the other side of that. It's very
No.
often, and you'll get this, it's very often that you become so good at masking what's really going on underneath. It's that whole, swan analogy, isn't it? With this
Yeah.
beautiful swan gracefully gliding across the surface of the lake. Then her little feet underneath are doing this. And she's like, oh. Um, but yeah, so it's this idea that we keep going, and we show the world this image of perfect and having your shit together. So yeah, so my anxiety, go way, way back to like childhood, really. It was always about either not being or not feeling good enough. And I guess different circumstances throughout my childhood led me to those beliefs. Like bullying in school, 80s kids, just the
Mm.
way life was. And it wasn't dealt with by schools, it wasn't noticed. It was, just kind of like a thing. Um and anxiety, I guess, when our generation were younger, especially anxiety in kids, is, well, what have you got to be worried about? What have you got to feel stressed about? And actually, anxiety, stress, depression, it's not measurable when you think about it. Just, something that one person would get stressed about doesn't, well, somebody else would just take it in their stride. There would be people on
Yeah.
this planet at the idea of recording a podcast would have an absolute internal meltdown. For
Yeah.
us, it's not an issue. But then put some, if I have to make a bloody vet appointment for the dog, Jesus Christ, it takes me 3 days to work up to the actual event and have to go through the conversation. Ordering a takeaway, no, I'd rather not fucking eat. Just Paul does all that. So different things affect
Yeah.
different people in different ways. And when we were younger, for us, and one of the things that I do love about the way our world is progressing is the fact we are acknowledging the fact that kids are affected by anxiety. Um, there was no support, and there was no words to say. You
Well, you
didn't
wouldn't
have the
even
words.
talk about it as
No,
a child. It
no,
would be something that wouldn't get discussed. It
no.
wasn't something like today, well-being and mental health is
Yeah,
so important. They teach it in schools, you
yeah,
have it in your workplace, it's become the norm. But back when
yeah.
we were kids,
No,
you
it just
wouldn't
wasn't
even
a
have heard of
thing.
it.
And I remember, and it must have been, I don't even think it was GCSE year. I think I've been year 9. Yeah, first year of high school, something like that. And I used to wake up in the night with I'm gonna cry. I used to wake up in the night with these pains, chest pains, and I couldn't get a breath. And it was literally, I was having a panic attack in my sleep, basically. But nobody, like, I mean, it was terrifying because I didn't even know what it was.
Mm.
But nobody would say, right, you're having a panic attack. Let's do some breathing. It just wasn't. And I didn't even know to alert anyone to the fact that this was actually,
Yeah.
does that make sense? It was just like, it was just a thing. Get on with it. Oh, dog's barking. And yeah, and that's kind of just like, gone on. And then that kind of not being good enough anxiety for me rolled into eating stuff. It rolled into body image stuff. It rolled into performance, as in like school, then work, perfectionism, blah, 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 blah. And I think I've got an ADHD brain. It's not diagnosed. I'm not gonna go through all that sort of thing. Well, not at the moment anyway. Um, and I think that as well, I think anxiety and ADHD brains don't go together very well at all, or they kind of
Mm.
feed each other. And some of the, behaviors displayed from one roll over into the other and vice versa. I'm very rejection sensitive. Like can't cope. If I message someone and then someone doesn't message me back within like immediately, I'm like, oh my God, they hate me. The amount of friendships I've lost. Oh
Oh.
my God, they hate me. But then I'll get a message and go, I can't answer that at the moment. And I'll put my phone down and just like leave it. And then I'll sit stressing about the fact, oh my God, I've got to get back to them. And it's not even a big thing. It's just someone saying, hey, how are you? And I'm like, oh, I don't know how I am. What am I going to say? Blah, 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 blah. And I just can't even open the message. And then I think, shit, a week's passed. Well, that's it. They're not even a friend anymore. I've just lost them now because I've the message and they're gone.
So you catastrophize. You're a big
Oh my
catastrophizer.
God. And when a thought, we're laughing about this, but it's not bloody funny. When a thought, for me, it's night times are my big ones. That I'll go and I say goodnight to the kids every night, or I look in on them when they're asleep or whatever. And I'll go up to bed and I'll be like, um, what's happening? Oh God. And it's all, and I don't want to get into what it actually is that happens in my head, but it's not nice. And it's always about the kids. And I'll come down and check
Yeah.
on them again. And I'll come down and check on them again. Tristan's like, Mom, go to bed. And I'm like, I just want to make sure you're all right. What's going to happen to me? I don't even know, but just, and so stuff like that. And, or I'll like just say to Paul, I'm having these thoughts. And I am so lucky that I have Paul because I've never met a person that gets me the way that Paul gets me. And I can
Mm.
tell him my biggest, wildest, weird scenarios that's going on in my head. And he's just like, okay, well, let's just breathe. Let's just go through this. Let's work this out. So yeah, so my anxiety comes up in lots of different ways. Sometimes it's to the point where I physically cannot, like, I'll do the school run and then I'll just want to hide away and I need that like time out in order to come back. And then I end up in burnout and it's just a great big old mess. But again, my witches who come to witch school or the people who sign up for my courses or are having readings and stuff, I think I'm freaking bearing my soul on this, aren't I? A lot of people, unless they knew me, would not know that this
No.
actually goes on, behind the scenes. And the catastrophizing thing, oh Jesus. I mean, Paul, the stuff that goes through my head, he's going to leave, he's going to find someone else. And it all kind of entangles into one big thing. But, and I will say this, I think once you have dealt with some sort of, whether it's anxiety, depression, whether it disordered eating, whatever, wherever you are on the scale of those things, whenever, wherever you are, I think once you've had a taste of that, I don't think it ever goes away. I don't think you can heal it completely. I don't think you can fix it.
I think it's about
Um,
coping, isn't
yeah,
it? Coping strategies, coping
finding a way to manage
mechanisms.
it. But at the same time, I want to, and I think a thought that brings me a lot of comfort with this is that if I didn't have those feelings, if I wasn't as sensitive as what I am, I wouldn't be the person that I am. I wouldn't be the incredible empath or healer that I am. I
Mm.
wouldn't, being able to feel from other people. I genuinely think that whole empath thing is linked into deep sensitivity and it comes hand in hand with whether it's perfectionism, anxiety, OCD, all that stuff. I think that there is an openness about our energy that allows stuff to get in to
Yeah.
twiddle with our heads in some way. I think the key for it, the way I see it, is the key for it is to be aware. And I have some, it's almost like a little red flag list behaviors that I start demonstrating before I'm about to hit a big explosion of anxiety. And people often think that anxiety is, oh, your chest gets tight and you can't breathe, and then you get all, you cry, or you can't get out of bed. But it comes up in so many like different ways. I can get argumentative if I've got an anxiety attack on the way. I'll cause an argument, and it's almost like to get that energy out in some kind of way. So I have like what I would class as a red flag list that I know I need to get out ahead of it before it kind of strikes. And my red flags, things like being argumentative is a big one. I know I'm going downhill. Not feeling like I am tapping into the universe when I go for that little, whether I'm doing healing or meditation or whatever, if I can't find my like little sweet zone of like, oh, there, yeah, that's a big one for me. Tiredness is a big one. If I'm tired, if I'm leaning towards eating crap rather than eating well, I know I'm on my way down. Not being able to read. I don't mean like not being able to recognize the
But
word.
like being able to sit and happily read a book.
Yeah, that for me, something right. Notice it, notice it, notice it. And
Yeah.
and again, I'm so lucky because I've got Paul, and he gets it. And if I say to him, I cannot read, I'm not, I can't. He will guide me towards doing something else that maybe isn't as chill for me as reading, but will help me just to drop those big squiggly thoughts and just start to clear my mind a little bit. But I mean, Reiki for me has been an absolute, like, I'm, going through. I honestly believe when I had Tris, I had postnatal depression, but I didn't know to say anything. I thought that was just me. I thought I was just being stupid. I thought in my head, I was wanting to take him out to baby classes and do different things, but I just felt so in the way. I felt so, I can't. But I never said anything to anyone. I never got it checked out or dealt with it all properly. But I had my Reiki, and that was the one thing that kept me right from
Put you
there. And
through.
it's something, one thing I have turned back to like over the years, every single time. And I know that if I do an extra bit of Reiki when I'm feeling like I'm on my way down, it just helps in every way possible. It just helps. It stops the tangly thoughts, it stops the catastrophizing, it stops the physical symptoms. When I'm going, I lose like my fingers and my feet go numb and tingly, and my face goes numb, which is, I don't even know if this is normal for people. And also, I think working through, I don't, as I say, I don't think we ever heal it, but working through that stuff, those hidden beliefs, because it does come from hidden beliefs for me, particularly. It's
Yeah.
that, not being good enough. It's that not being able to be perfect enough as a mom, as a businesswoman, as a healer, as a, partner, as anything, stuff not being good enough, and kind of tackling those hidden beliefs. And I work on that stuff day in and day out. That's the Ho'oponopono, that's the Reiki healing, that's the asking the cards. It's in everything I do. And yeah, so for me, it's that being able to find management strategies and techniques, I guess. But then I get bored, so I've got to switch it up all the
Switch it
time
up.
because I'm a typical Gemini and I can't just focus on one thing at a time.
So I keep a diary, like an everyday diary, and I love that. I love going back over my diaries, but for me, that works really, really well. Like just recording my day, and where it doesn't fit in the box, and I've got more that I need to talk about or write down or whatever. So I'm a big journaler, and that is a really good way for me. It's like I can just put it down, and it might only make sense to me. Like if you were to read it, you might think, god, she starts here, she goes to there, she goes down there. It's probably why I've never been able to write a book, although it's on my bucket list, because my brain's like woo, 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 going all over the place. But I find that works really well for me. But I remember when I was having therapy, and this might resonate to you and some other listeners, but like, so for example, with OCD, you get an impulse. So for example, I have this thing where I have to check door handles 3 or 6 times. So I'm testing myself at the moment, although I'm still doing the door handles. I'm trialing a 4.
Okay.
Just to show that the world won't
Yeah.
end if I do it 4 times. So you'll have people listening to this going, but why are you doing it at all? I'm not ready yet to not do it. I have to do it, but I don't know. For example, so when you're getting the anxiety is when, so normally that's when you would do the impulse, because the anxiety is getting so bad. So if you do the impulse, that releases the anxiety. And so during the years of having therapy, she said it's a bit like being on a roller coaster. And you know how when you're going up before you go down the other side, she said that's the anxiety. It's rising, it's rising, it's rising, it's rising. And it's when you feel sick, you're uncertain, you don't know what's on the other side, you don't know how you're going to feel. And she said, just try and stay with it. Because she said, eventually you will reach the top and come down the other side. And it may be an hour, it may be 6 hours, it may be 3 days. But eventually you'll get to a point where you start to come down naturally without having to feed the impulse. And literally like being on a roller coaster. And that's always stuck with me and resonated with me, because it does feel like that. And I normally break that feeling before getting to the top with the impulse, whereas actually I could maybe try sticking it out, because at some point it will start to go down, but it's just giving it time. It's funny, isn't it, how things affect people in different ways. And Reiki for you has been a saving grace, and for me, I suppose, writing.
Yeah, that, and it's so, I think it's such a personal thing as well, and this is why I don't think the world knows or understands anxiety well enough to be able to deal with it, really, because it's so varied. It's so varied how it manifests in people's lives. Some people, will feel anxious, so they'll get out. Some people feel anxious, so they have to stay in. I'm a proper hibernator. Some people feel some people feel anxious and shut down. Some people feel anxious and then, well, one of the ones I fall into is and have to then overproduce and go into, right, well, if I'm anxious, do some work, get something done, be productive, and at least you'll feel better if you're productive. Some people end up with impulses like the OCD stuff. Some people have other kinds of impulses. Some people, then turn to other things like alcohol, food. Food's a big one. If I'm anxious, oh God, bring on the comfort food. And we'll just pretend it's not there with chocolate.
I'm an eater as well, so I fully get that.
And it doesn't work, because you end up more anxious later because of the fact you've eaten all that shit, and now you feel guilty about eating.
Then you get guilty, then you go into a whole load of anxiety around weight and all of that stress. So the cycle continues.
It just feeds it. And so I like what you're saying about, riding it out. But again, we need different positive strategies to be able to ride it out. And I think
it's hard as well. It is hard.
It is so, because in some ways, and this kind of, gosh, it goes against so much that I teach. It's so safe when you are feeling anxious and feeling really shit. It's safe to stay there because it can't get worse, or you feel at the time it can't get worse. So if that bomb does drop in whatever form, your survival instinct is telling you there's a bomb ready to drop, something bad is going to happen. If you are already feeling shit, then you're there, you're prepared for it. Whereas if you're feeling good and you allow yourself to be happy and free and all the wonderful things, and then something bad happens, oh, that's going to feel worse. But actually, if something bad happens, whether you're feeling amazing or you're feeling shit, it still feels bad. It doesn't work. But this is just how our heads kind of tell us that, oh, stay here. It'll be all right, because if something crap happens, then we'll be able to deal with it from where we are. But we can't. We're less able to deal with it because our vibrations are super low, where our heads are foggy and cloudy. And then you've got the whole chemical aspect of it as well, which is something that we can control to a degree. When we have a negative thought, our body releases those negative chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol and all the rest of it. When we have positive thoughts, our bodies release positive chemicals like serotonin and oxytocin and dopamine and all those other lovely feeling things that we have. So if we are in the habit of feeling anxious, i.e., we are living in survival mode, then I'm going to go into that in a minute, actually, because that needs explained. Then our bodies are so used to producing the stressy chemicals that it's not just a snap decision that will take us out of it. We can do one thing to take us out of it in that moment, but our body is in that habit and we become addicted to the stress chemicals, just as we can become addicted to nicotine or alcohol or anything else that we get addicted, crisps and sugar
Yeah.
and stuff. We then become, our bodies become addicted to this adrenaline hit, this cortisol hit, and we literally crave it, which is why we self-sabotage, and it's why we look for bad things and bad feelings, because something inside of us is wanting that stress chemical hit. Go back to before civilized people lived. We're all living in caves and things. We had this mechanism built into us that meant that if we left our little cave as cavemen, and women, thank you very much, and we went off, foraging for food or hunting or gathering or whatever we did, and there was a saber-toothed tiger, there was a bear, there was a wolf, there was something came chasing us, our thoughts would go, shit, which would in turn fire off all the stress chemicals in our body, which we know as the fight or flight kind of thing.
Yeah.
We
And we need.
we need it, yeah, because we
Yeah.
do. We needed it then to run away from saber-toothed tigers and wolves and
Yeah.
bears. Our saber-toothed tigers and wolves and bears are different now because it's, bouncing direct debits and it's performance reviews at work and it's kids not being well. There are saber-toothed tigers now. But they aren't just as important. But we don't need, or very rarely, we don't need that physical burst of speed or the ability to think quickly and hide because we're going to get, eat by a bear or a wolf or a saber-toothed tiger. But we still have this mechanism in our body that says when there is a perceived danger, we fire off these what we now know as stress chemicals to protect us, to save us, to help us deal with it. But in our modern day lives, a lot of us have lived for such a long time in this survival mode with these stress chemicals going off because of something bad's going to happen, something bad's going to happen, and that's not going to work, and that's not, oh, and then that went wrong, and then that person said that. Da, 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 da. So we've just got into, our bodies have got into the habit of firing off these stress chemicals all the time. It takes work and to habit, it's breaking a habit. So just the same as it takes a lot of effort and energy to break the habit of having a chocolate bar on a nighttime or a drink or a cigarette or a vape or, whatever it might be, we have to now break the habit of producing these stressy chemicals because our body will do anything to get a hit of this stuff. Even though our heads don't want it. We don't want it. We want to feel free of it. Nobody on this planet wants to be crippled with fucking anxiety.
Absolutely.
Nobody wants to check a
Yeah.
door handle 3 or 6 times. We don't want to do this stuff.
No.
But something inside of us is fueling this need to be able to do it. So we need to break the cycle. And one of the first things we need to do is we need to shift our brainwaves because we have all these different brain patterns. And when we are living in survival mode, we are in beta brainwaves, okay? Our normal life is like, low beta brainwaves. Most people potter about in their day going, oh, and I've got to pop to the shop and let's do some work. Let's answer that email. Let's get that thing. Let's do whatever. They're your normal beta brainwaves, but we also have high beta brainwaves, and high beta brainwaves is stress. It is something bad's going to happen, and not that we're consciously thinking something bad's going to happen. We're just so ingrained with the thought of shit, someone's going to catch me out. Someone's going to say something. Oh God, I'm going to be turned away. I'm going to be rejected. Someone's going to die. The kids are going to get ill, or, all these awful, awful thoughts we have. They all come from this high beta brainwave. If we can drop ourselves from beta brainwaves down into alpha brainwaves, everything stops. Those chemicals, all of the stuff stops. But again, it's not just a one-off thing. It's something we have to practice every single day to convince our body that actually we're better off without this adrenaline and cortisol hit all the time. It even affects our metabolism. We don't digest food properly. We carry extra weight when we live in survival mode. And if we can drop out of survival mode and ditch the anxiety, ultimately, easier said than done,
Maybe that's why I'm so fat then.
Don't use language like that about yourself. You are not so fat. But I can guarantee, and I'm exactly the same, I can guarantee that a chunk of the weight that we carry that we don't want, that excess, not all of it, because chocolate is chocolate and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But we hold on to it because our bodies are convinced we're going to need quick access energy to run away from all the saber-toothed tigers and the bears and the wolves that we're going to face. When actually, well, we're not, and we don't need it in that moment. We don't need that burst of energy to run, especially not physically these days, So if we can drop our brainwaves out of high beta brainwaves and hit alpha brainwaves. So alpha brainwaves, have you ever done anything where you were just content? You are happy to the point where you're not even thinking about anything else. Like I'm like that when I'm reading, the world melts away and I'm just like bliss. It's just lovely. When we do Reiki or meditation, we drop into alpha brainwaves. So if you and it doesn't have to be like mystical, magical meditation. You can go for a lovely walk and be connecting with the trees and the air and the elements around you and nature, and it just feels nice. Those moments where you think to yourself, I never even worried about anything then. I wasn't checking myself all the time. I wasn't stopping to overthink about anything.
I always feel like that when I'm near the sea.
Yeah.
So like when I go for walks along the seafront, it's just something to do with seeing the sea and hearing the waves crash up just really calms me. I just love it.
And so it's good to identify the things that we have in our lives that can bring us out of those high beta brainwaves, drop us into alpha. It's where we're creative. It's also where inspiration and guidance and all the lovely stuff comes through from the universe. Because when we're stressy, now nothing's getting in. We can't manifest, we can't attract, we can't connect, we can't plug in. And that's why we end up feeling lost, lonely, confused, isolated, alone, because we've literally snipped our plug-in. I'm doing scissors above the top of my head right now, not that anyone can see, but we those brainwaves stop. They literally block the magic in the universe from coming into us, that lovely energy. We stop being able to receive love, so people around us can be loving us and our energy's just pinging it off backwards and
We're
forwards, left, right,
blocking
and
it all,
center.
aren't we?
Have you ever been in a situation, again, anxiety fueled, where everyone around you's having a wonderful time and everyone's laughing and you're looking at stuff thinking, I should be really enjoying this. This is lovely. This is funny. This is great. And I'm numb to it. I'm just not even.
You're sort of living through the motions. You're partaking in it, but your head and your feelings are somewhere else.
You've completely disassociated from that. Your body's there, but you're not there.
You're there. You're there in body, but not in spirit or mind.
And that's because we're in these really, really high beta brainwaves and our chemical production's going off the bloody charts. And we kind of pull, it's almost like we pull away from connecting with joy, with gratitude, with happiness. One of the things I notice when my anxiety's bad, Paul might say to me, if he sees me going downhill, he might say, tell me something you're grateful for today. Tell me one good thing about today. And this is the shit that I throw at everyone all the time. And if I'm in a bad place in my head, I don't want to do it. It's not that I can't, because I can. I don't want to. It makes me like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to feel better. I want to stay grumpy and anxious and miserable and down. And I don't. Like, real me doesn't want that. Real me wants to sit there and talk about the fact that a robin came to the bird feeder, or, something nice and little and interesting. But it's almost like we get so locked into, well, this is how I am, and it's just safer to stay in my own little shitty bubble than escape into happiness. Fuck you, happiness.
You stubborn woman, you.
But it's not even conscious. Our conscious brain's going, oh no, I want to be happy. Let me out of this hell that is anxiety. But we just get so entangled in it and so wrapped up in it. But if we can do something to snap it. Now, if you can, in that moment, take yourself off for meditation or Reiki healing or whatever, that is great. But sometimes we need, something else to bring us out of that. And I've heard that ice cubes are very good if you can hold an ice cube, because the cold blast instantly makes you go poof, and
it's making me cold. Think about it.
shivering
I'm
just
wrapping
thinking about
myself
it.
up in the cardigan.
Just to hold an ice cube is enough, or to rub an ice cube on your pulse points, or even
Yeah.
just down here, like on your throat, is enough to kind of snap you out of that cycle of bad chemicals, or like unhelpful chemicals and unhelpful thoughts. And other things like that. 3 deep breaths. If you can get yourself to just take 3 deep breaths, it is enough to start rebalancing and regulating the production of all the shit that's going on inside of you. And obviously the good things are, name 3 things that made you happy today or that you're grateful for. You can move into different mindfulness techniques, like point out 4 red things in the room, or well, there's that ornament there is red, and that's red, and that's red, and it brings you back to the moment. Or you can, one thing you can taste, one thing you can touch, one thing you can see, one thing you can hear, one thing you can
Smell.
I didn't know what I was going to say. I've lost a sense. What's the other one? Things like that can all work. But I think, and I say this as somebody who manages this on a daily basis, I honestly think it comes down to choice, and it's hard. And there's a lot of people out there would disagree with me and go, no, I've got no power over this. I've got no control over this. But we do. We absolutely do. We can decide if we want to let this stuff control us every day and then lead us down. Because yourself, if the momentum on anxiety builds, you've got no chance, have you? It just takes you down somewhere very, very bad. But we make the choice every day. Am I gonna get a handle on this today? Who do I want to be today? Who do I want to be today? And it's not about being mean to yourself. It's about giving yourself the kind of day that you deserve, rather than the kind of day that really, is hurtful and horrible and hard and that you don't deserve. And I think it does come down to choice. And no, we don't choose to be an anxious hot mess, but we can choose to stay there, or we can choose to do the things we know will help us. So for me, eating well, eating clean, lots of fresh fruit and veg, that helps me balance my anxiety. It makes me feel like I'm doing something positive and good for myself. So if I choose to eat something good for lunch, then that is me taking steps to managing this. I can choose to put my Ho'oponopono on when I'm doing my makeup, and that will help. And there's no effort needed from me if I'm doing my makeup anyway. As I say, slap that face on. No one can tell what's underneath it. And for Paul, it's exercise. For him, if he's going downhill, he exercises. He exercises most day, whether it's going for a run, whether it's he's got weights set up in the garage or whatever. And he knows if he can get out there and do it, his mindset is
Really good for him. Exercise is good for a lot of people, actually, isn't it?
And I think there's science stuff in there to say that chemical wise, that really does help. But I don't like exercise, so I'll just not talk about it.
Yeah, I'm the same. I need to, but I'll really
stick
don't
with
like
meditation.
And for me, one you haven't mentioned, and it isn't for everybody, but for me, the power of touch really helps. So yeah, granted, I don't have a man right now to give me that sort of that cuddle. For me, it's I have this security thing when I'm being held. I don't know if it stems back from being a child, so but my mum, my mum hugs me still. I'll sometimes just say, mum, I just need a mum cuddle. And I'm a 44-year-old woman. I'm so blessed, I've still got my mum, and I know there'll be people listening that won't have parents and things, and that'll be really, really difficult. Obviously Lily, but Lily's getting to that older age now where she doesn't want to hug so much. It's a bit like embarrassing, like, don't touch me, mum, just don't touch me. And I'm like, where's the cuddles gone? But that's a big thing for, I think, sometimes bringing me back into the present, as it were. Like, when my mindset might be spiraling and all those horrible thoughts are coming in. So for me personally, that sort of power of touch, of somebody literally touching me, it's like a break.
Yeah.
a break in the cycle of, a bit like you were talking about the ice cubes and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It
That
just
kind of works for me. So
stops. It's like sticking
yeah,
a literal spanner in the works, isn't it?
yeah,
Like literally just stopping
yeah.
it. Yeah.
I
How do
think
you,
for me
how
it's
do
that
you,
safety feeling as well.
yeah. How do you feel about cuddly toys?
Well, you know what? That is really interesting. I don't have any. And then Lily was getting rid of a load and she was getting rid of one that I really loved. So I've sort of taken it. And for a while it was on my bed. But now I've just moved it aside. But yeah, I don't have any. But Lily, when Lily's going away with her dad, for example, for a holiday for a week, she's got a seahorse that she's had as a baby. So she'll say
Oh,
to me
seahorse.
before she goes away, she'll say, "Oh, you cuddle it every night, Mum, and then when I go away, it'll smell of you." And so I do. And that week of just cuddling this little seahorse is quite cute, actually.
Yeah.
But for me, I would really, I think that's where, again, I don't want to harp it back to a man, but that's where I'm really feeling that lack of, I need that. I like that cuddle,
Yeah.
and I don't have that right now. But,
Yeah.
I think, I suppose what we're saying is there's different things for different people.
Gosh. And
And you
so
have,
many, so
yeah,
many.
you have to kind of find your way, don't
Yeah.
you? And it's not easy, and you'll
No.
try different techniques, and you may find for a while that no techniques work, and then suddenly a few work. And we're also not downplaying how difficult this is for people. Like, I know
No,
you
not
said
at all.
about choice, and I can resonate with what you're saying. I think people that suffer in really difficult situations, like say bipolar or really chronic
Mm.
depression and things, can be very difficult to
Yeah.
make those choices. But I do get what you're saying. It's like if somebody's an alcoholic or something like that, you have to get to a point where you say, no, I will not touch another drink.
Yeah.
You
Or even before that, you make the decision to ask for help. And
Well, yeah, true,
I think
true.
that's maybe, or if we are in situations that are beyond what we feel is, within our control, then we have to make the decision to ask for help. And whether that's going to the doctors, whether that's calling a helpline, whether it's speaking to a member of the family, whether it's opening up to a friend, we get to a point where we've got a choice there, and I can either continue going on, but I can't turn this around on my own. I can't make a change on my own. So that choice then, ultimately, your first step, because it comes in steps, doesn't it? Your first step to helping yourself through this, to bringing improvements into your life, is to make the decision. But I guess even before that, it's the choice to I want to change. I want to
Acknowledging
change.
it.
Yeah, I've got a problem. I want to change. I don't want to feel this way anymore. Okay, what comes first? And if you can, Ho'oponopono or meditation or journal or cuddle or whatever it is, and if that helps, then brilliant. But if it does go deeper, it is about making that decision to say, right, I need external help here. And you may have people close to you that can you walk that path with you,
Mm.
or it might be about doing the really scary things and booking the doctor's appointment, booking the counselling appointment, taking those steps to, seek help, and make the changes with the help that you need in your own personal situation. But it's not
Yeah,
easy. It's not
it's
easy
not
at
easy. And
all.
I hope we
No.
haven't upset anybody with this conversation today.
Maybe
And
we need some trigger warnings on
yeah,
the front
you're
of
the
this
trigger
one.
warning person.
Yeah.
So, but it's not, hopefully we haven't said anything that's intentionally upset anybody, or we've
No.
caused any, because we come in from a genuinely
Yeah.
really good place and a safe space. And also the fact that we've both been sufferers for years ourselves in our own different ways. So we absolutely do not make light of how difficult anxiety can be for people. We know only too well ourselves how crippling and debilitating that it can all be. So I hope it's been a bit of a hard session, this one.
Been a big one,
A
hasn't
bit of a
it?
hard session. It has been a big one. So hopefully, guys, because I think we've probably drawing it to an end
Yeah.
now, but I hope maybe there's something in there that you've got out of
Yeah.
it. But equally, if you want to share ways that you deal with it,
Yeah.
that would be really good, because I think this is the thing we're learning each week we talk, all of us, is we're all experiencing the same things but in different ways. So it's
Yeah.
good to share, isn't
Yeah.
it?
And I
Good to share.
think, even if you haven't got anything practical out of today, I think one of the things with having a bit of an anxious mind, or whatever you want to call it. I think knowing that sometimes you feel like you're the only person who feels like that, and you feel
Yeah.
stupid and you feel wrong and you feel broken. And I really don't like the idea of feeling like you are broken just because you are, you have this extra sensitivity, let's call it. I hate the phrase oversensitive. You're being oversensitive and you are overreacting. I hate that, because actually what is valid for us in that moment is not
Yeah.
over anything. This is just us. And quite frankly, if you cannot handle me, as you say, overdoing something, then you can screw off, matey, because you know what is it? Was it, oh God, was it Marilyn Monroe, Audrey Hepburn? I can't remember what it was, but they said, oh, I need to remember these names of these quotes. If you can't handle me at my worst, you do not deserve me at my
Oh, I
best.
love it. Two classic queens right there.
Yeah. And
Whichever one said it, phenomenal.
yeah, and you know what it is? I think, and I can see this through, the experiences I have with working with other people dealing with anxiety, is that when people who carry anxiety are on top form, they are some of the most beautiful, big, loving, miracle working people on this
Mm.
planet. I think that there are a group of us that I've come, and I'm going to get all woo woo on you again after such a bloody human episode. I think there is a big group of people who have come to this planet to help lead the change and help the planet and the people evolve into something bigger and something better and brighter and higher vibrational. And we are, whether you class us as light workers, earth angels, all that sort of stuff. And I think anxiety comes with that job, because it's a big
Mm.
fucking job,
A
especially
big
at the
ask.
moment. What is that? There's not enough sage on the planet to deal with this shit.
Oh God, yeah.
But and I think when we are sensitive people and we are exposed to the harsh energies that are, not even off people, but that are just floating around the world at the moment, well, that is enough to make anyone fucking anxious over
Yeah.
nothing.
Difficult times, isn't it? It's a
Yeah.
hard, yeah, difficult.
But don't
Well,
criticize your oversensitivity, because you're not oversensitive. You are just deeply sensitive, and
yeah.
that is a gift. So we can find gifts in all this stuff as well.
In everything. Oh, what a lovely
Yeah.
way to end. Well, we hope you've enjoyed the episode.
Yeah.
Appreciate it's a little bit of a heavier one. Like I always say every single week, like, rate, subscribe, share, follow, comment, everything.
Tell your friends.
Everything podcast related.
Yeah.
And we'll be back in your ears next week. What are we talking about next week, Shells?
Next, oh, well, we've had a request, Helen, for a specific topic for an episode. And it was somebody that you knew came to you with this one. And when you said, can we do an episode on this? I went, yes, 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 yes. And my bum started to wiggle and I started to get all very, very excited. Ooh, I'm looking at my eyebrows and dancing all over the place. So next episode, we are hitting the wonderful world of meditation. And I'm very, very excited. I've hinted all the way through our episodes about meditation and stuff, but we're going to get right into it. What to do meditating with crazy busy brains, how to meditate, what meditation is and what meditation is not, how to help yourself through it, both our experiences with meditation, and yeah, all kinds of meditation stuff.
Can't wait. It's going to be brilliant. Well, thank you, Shelley. Have a
Well, thank you,
wonderful
my
week.
darling. You as well.
Looking forward to speaking to you soon. And yeah, good luck with everything. All our listeners this week, I'm sending out positive vibes so that you have a really good week. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, my darlings. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.